Call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda, and we do have an addendum, and also 6.0, item B, we'll postpone that until next month. So we did a motion to accept the agenda as amended with 11.35 added to the agenda, which is discussion and possible action on concrete work at Lincoln schools.
So moved.
Back to you, David.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Jeff. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Carries 6-0. The next item, 3.0, is approval of minutes for September 17th. We had two meetings that day. One, we toured the Washington School in the regular meeting, and October 1, the special meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion by Joanne.
I second it.
Second by Olivia to approve the minutes as published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries 6-0. Consideration of bills and warrants. Those are in our packet. Pages, what are that? Bunch of pages.
7 through 29.
Yeah, thank you. Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Jeff to approve, second by David. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Hearing requests and suggestions from citizens and organizations. Anyone here who's not on the agenda? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to 6.0 with special reports. Melissa. Melissa Peak on Ice Station.
Well, recently, I was asked to go to Topeka with Ice Station and a group of two other teachers. So we were 3 schools that were asked to present what our data was in the usage of using Ice Station reading or math. Now, this year, we do have math. We got that from the district. You know, you guys purchased that for us. So I just kind of want to share how we're doing, how is, I guess, working in our district and how we're using it in our building. So I have a little presentation for you. Of course, you know this, but for the state, they didn't know. Yeah, so they just asked us to tell a little bit about our building, and I explained how we are a grade level building. So I'll kind of skip over that part. We have some teachers who do use it on a daily basis. This is a group of the kids that are using as whole class, and they are Mr. Peak's class, first grade. They use it, like I say, as a whole group. Some teachers use it in small groups. It doesn't matter regardless, either way it works. And one of the things I told the state that they like to do, when he does it every day, he'll do 10 minutes of Math Kids, which is another app, 20 minutes Ice Station reading, 20 minutes of math, and then give them 10 minutes free time. The goal for Ice Station, they like about 15 minutes on average is a good time to use it, because like at the beginning of each month, it does an assessment, and it will tier the kids where they're at. Tier 1 being the highest, 2, and then 3. So it kind of tiers them up into what they're doing. At the first of each month, it tiers them again every month. So they do a reassessment. So like I say, 10, 15 minutes is about average time. The kids will get through it's called ISP. There's a little blue box on the bottom, and it gives them a score. So it's instant data for the teacher. We instantly know where they're at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. We have a Miss ENS, her class, like I say, when she does it, she has the kids kind of choose a random spot in the classroom, get comfortable. They log in. I think this one they were doing reading on this day. So they just kind of spread out and work on their time. She said she likes to use it once a week, and they use it for an hour. I don't know if it's just, she didn't really tell me if it's once reading or math, or she splits that time up, but. And then kindergarten, and this is in the beginning. Of course, a lot of that, the kids, they learn their username, their password, they log in. So a lot of it is teaching it. Even by the end of the year, my class, my preschoolers, they were learning how to do it, and they were bragging that they didn't need their card with the password. They knew it. So once they get going, it takes, not very long. But when you have a big group of 22, if you're all logging them in, showing them how to do it. Here's another one, Mrs. Kennett's class. And like I say, they do various activities for iStation, the whole group logging in. The thing about this, I'll kind of get to it. In the very beginning, when we first got it, we got iStation reading as a trial from the state. The thing about when we received it, we weren't really ready for the free time, because when you put 20 kids on iPad and they're all talking at once, it gets very, loud. So we needed to get the purchase of earphones, which we now have done. We've gotten the iPads, we've gotten the cart. So now we're ready. And our time is quickly kind of diminishing from the state, because they purchased this for this, all the schools to use. We have it till 2020 free. Now math, like I say, we purchased it at a year's time. So iStation kind of, we're looking for teachers to present to Topeka, and in hopes that they will renew it free for all the schools to use in the state of Kansas. Because as I told them, I said, we just weren't ready in the first, we didn't have enough iPads. We didn't have and what we tried to do when we first started was kind of spread them out into little groups. So you didn't have kids, because it does get distracting if you have kids all grouped together and everybody's working at their own level, on their own little area on the iPad. You work at your own pace, and that's another wonderful thing about it. And that data that I was talking to you about, the top one is September, and then the bottom shows our October. Tier 1, which is a blue, that's where you want your majority of your growth to be. You're always going to have some in Tier 2, some Tier 3. Just in the 1 month of usage, and of course instructions and everything that we do in that 1 month, our Tier 1 had increased, and Tier 2 you want them to go down, Tier 3, that's wonderful. So that's, like I say, as soon as kids get done testing, I can log on and I can see how everybody did. And if you got those Tier 3 kids, what's wonderful about it, you can log on and see what are they missing. Like in my preschool, it might be they don't know their letters, or just whatever. And then there's already lessons that you can use with that Tier 3 child, and what you can do to help them bring it up. Tier 2, same way. It just shows you what they missed. And when I can log on, and before the next time that they are working on it, I can have them repeat that particular thing. If they missed something that had to do with letters or sounds, they can do an on-demand reassessment. Next time they log in, they're repeating that thing that they missed. So just kind of repeat exposure to it. And then in December, like I say, when I had some new students joined that had, been in my classroom, it was interesting to see the data, my numbers decreased. My ones went back down because these had new kids, didn't have any exposure. And of course, we work with them and we'll get them back up to Tier 2 and 3, or 1. And this is something I like to share. I'll be sharing it at my parent-teacher conference. The individual summary report that you can share with each parent. This is all about one particular child. And it talk at the very top there, let me go to the next one right here. At the very top where it's a red, it will tell the parent what tier their child is at, Tier 3, 2, 1. And then on the blue, it will break up in those 6 boxes that you're showing there, the different categories. And I listed them here: listening comprehension, letter knowledge, phonemic awareness, alphabetic decoding, comprehension, vocabulary, and spelling. And as a child progresses in when they log in, more of these boxes start appearing. So this is, back in, this is first grade. So I kind of used somebody who had been doing it. So, she's already got more of our boxes. Now, my preschoolers right now, they have about 3 boxes because they just haven't been as far along in the process of it. So, and also up there, Tier 1, or the red arrow, it shows a grade equivalent. So if this is a Tier 3, right now, first grader, they're working at a K 4th month level. And this is just good data that we can present to parents, when they ask, what do I need to be doing? Well, here, this is where your child is, maybe a little needing some help and assistance in this one, here's what we can be doing to help your child. Here's how you can help me. So, and we also get a report for math. This is a whole class group for math. This is at the end of last year, we had it as a trial period. I went to an iStation training at Greenbush, so we got it for a trial period. So we used it for maybe about 2 months. And last year I had 81% in tier 1. That's really good. And then we had some in tier 2, some in tier 3. So 81, 8%, and 12%. And most of the teachers, we really asked the teachers in our building to try it out, see how, because we were going to, like I say, ask to see if we could purchase that. It went right along in with the curriculum for preschool, as my perspective. And so we asked all the grades to try it out, to go with the Go Math, and it just falls right in place with it. Everything we're doing, this is what it has on iStation. It just goes right along with the curriculum.
I'll just stop you for a second. That very last sentence to me is vital, because I think the general public needs to know that the teachers love this, but it's an extension of the math program. It's not the math program.
Yeah, but as I was sharing just a little bit ago, some districts, one of the districts that also presented there in Topeka, this is what they opted to do. This was their curriculum. Some of them are doing that. They're using the reading and the math as their sole curriculum. Now, we just use it as an extension. So either way is fine. And she said the lady that is a manager of the iStation, she said, yeah, they have districts all over that do some, either both. So, yeah. Because that, like I say, I was didn't know that part of it. And then here is what the math report looks like. Not as in depth, but it still shows at the top level there, it shows a grade, and then that gives an overall sum. And it will show if the green, is tier 1, yellow is the tier 2, and the pink is the tier 3. So it kind of graphs each month in that box where their progress is from September, October each month. And then the percentile rank, how many minutes that they've been using it. That's everything that a teacher can show with the parents how they're doing. And then the very bottom, I always like to see the legend. You've got that child who likes to pause, try to, get out. We can see that ones who are not, just sitting there and not really going for it, that they're taking a longer time to answer a question. We can see that. And then if they're missing anything, ongoing struggles, it all shows us that right there. And this is another paper that we can give to the parents. Here's how your child doing. And hopefully, I always tell my parents, keep track of this, because you can see their percentage. Is it going up? Is their points going up each month? That's the goal. We want it to go up. And then this year, I was able to get logged in under a different status. So now I can see as a building, how we're doing. So now we have a report just for Lincoln. And for the month of September, I was able to get in there and see how many teachers are using it, and how many students. And you see how long and what for a tier 1. So for preschool, it starts on the left. Then you got kindergarten and first grade. And that shows a breakdown. Like I say, kindergarten's tier 1's doing really good. That's the bluish green there. And the yellow's tier 2 and the 3. So that was kind of neat to see as a whole, as a building, how we're all doing. And same thing will be for our math. So we had and then the breakdown there was 61 tier 1, 38 tier 2, 40 in tier 3. So for the September, we had 139 of our building just using it. And the other one, we had 118. So, do you have any questions? But that's how, like I say, we just kind of present. They wanted us, our free reading trial, like I say, runs out 2020. So we were there to present, to show the state in hopes that they will renew it free for the state of Kansas. That's our goal.
Do you know what the cost is on the iReading and iMath?
Well, I would look it up for math because we got it. It was cheaper. You can have, I want to say it was like $11 to $15 per student, or if you did it as a whole building, like 99 students and above, it was cheaper. So that's what we asked the teachers really last April, May, to really try it out. Are you interested? Because we were trying to, budget-wise, is it cheaper to go individual or as a building? And for the amount of the teachers who said that they were going to use it, it was cheaper for us to go the 99 route, 99 students and above. So we got, and I want to say it was maybe about 15 to 2,000 something maybe. Yeah, around that price
I
range.
can look it up.
Yeah. And I'm assuming the reading would be the same cost-wise, but this was for math because we were getting reading free. So we were just looking at the math cost. So,
You may have said this, but do all the preschool teachers use it?
not all preschool, no. And even in, like that one, we, just in the month of September, and as I told them at the state, it was about middle of September before I introduced it to my children because there's a lot of things you got to first introduce. And I haven't logged on to see what September or October looks like. But in the beginning, there's a lot. And I'm trying to, encourage. Not all like to do certain things.
Oh,
but,
right. And,
yeah.
in preschool, there's so much developing of vocabulary and everything and social. I could see why not everybody is.
And what I really like about the math, I was hesitant when I was talking to our OSA, the iStation lady, will this work for my 3-year-olds since this is a new thing? And she said, yes. Like I said, we were talking about the age range. It goes from preschool, we're thinking 8th grade, 12th grade, somewhere around there, that can use it. And it's funny how my 3-year-olds compared to my 4-year-olds, 4-year-olds love the math. 3-year-olds love the reading. And the reason I'm finding is because the 3-year-olds don't know their numbers. It's harder for them because and as we keep working along, we're learning our numbers right now. We're working on patterns and it's going to get easier for them. I've noticed in the repeat time that we've done it, now they're going a little bit quicker on it. So it's just a little harder because they weren't aware. But it goes right along with my curriculum that I'm using. When I told the kids, see that pattern that we were talking about the other day? Look what you're doing on iStation right now. They had to recreate a pattern. So.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mrs. Peak. Very interesting.
Thank you.
7.0, report of the superintendent.
Okay, here we go. There are quite a few things coming up in the month of October and in November. So this month is National School Principals Month. So we're doing some things to recognize our principals at this next principals meeting. And it is also National Bully Prevention Month. So they're doing things at the elementary buildings, drug awareness, bully awareness. I've seen some of those things come through. We've got parent-teacher conferences coming up for our elementary, and that is the 16th and the 18th. So it's Tuesday and Thursday of this week, from 4 in the afternoon to 7:30. So I would encourage you to get out, make those contacts, stop by and get your grade reports for your students so that your teachers can share what all's happening. October the 22nd, so that's a week from today, there is no school. So it works because we've got those 2 parent-teacher conferences evenings, and so that's the comp day. October 24th is the Kansas School Bus Driver Appreciation Day, and so we've ordered a special thing for our bus drivers, but I don't want to give it away yet because we haven't given it to them. On Halloween, October the 31st, we do have early student dismissal that day. The teachers have got professional development. That'll be in the buildings. They'll continue their work on social emotional standards and those 2 KISA goals that we have. Our next regular meeting is November the 19th. That'll be at 6 o'clock right here in this building. We have Thanksgiving recess, which it doesn't seem possible. But we're already finished with the first quarter. It went really quickly. So those 3 days, we are out that Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving, and then that Friday. Mike and I are going to the KASB annual conference at Overland Park, November 30th, December the 1st, and the 2nd. And so that'll be a new experience. I've never been to that. So there are a whole bunch of things that we're going to learn there. And enrollment. Okay. So the superintendent's organization report, that's the first year I've ever done that too. It's been interesting. And our number this year, we ended at 1,305. 1,305 students. So that was the final count reported on that count. Last year, the final number, I thought someone might want to know, was $1,298.
Do you have the FTE for last year?
I do not, I did not bring that sheet. And so
Be close to that number of 1,250.
I printed it off, but I didn't bring it because I highlighted this and that, so. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Okay, the next item is the special education report. It was a really short meeting. Probably the most point of interest is the Job Olympics are in Fredonia on November the 6th. And we are posting a position of assistant director beginning the 1st of November to hire a new assistant director. Our current director is retiring at the end of the school year. The assistant director is moving up to the director position, and we're looking for a new assistant director. Meeting took about 20 minutes, so pretty short.
They were always longer when I went.
Did you hold them over, Julian?
8.0B is the KS Regional 3 report. Mr. Ray, I'll let you kick that off.
Okay. So Mr. Castle, Ms. Ray, and I went to Greenbush. We attended with other school board members, other administrators, essentially for school safety. We discussed what we're doing in our district as far as assessing potential threats, both internally and externally. We watched a video from the University of Northern Colorado. It was about the Arapahoe shooting, as well as they have done research and other studies on school shootings. And I do remember that one of the takeaways I remember from the video, they said that 81% of school shootings, someone knew at some level that it was going to happen. We discussed challenges of providing a physically safe and secure environment, as well as one that has a welcoming learning environment for our students. We discussed what we're doing in our district as far as what steps are being taken to intentionally develop the right culture and climate in our school, as well as our community. Specifically, as far as our district, we talked about our counselors, mental health advisors, social workers, staff. We talked about building relationships. We talked about adverse childhood experience training and fully developing a safety plan. Next steps, CASB, who put on the presentation, they asked in what areas they felt like they could help. We specifically talked about additional money, social and mental health workers, and possible additional resources for our foster kids. As far as a takeaway, me personally, I think we're doing a good job on our physical safety and our structures for our students. I feel like, with the addition of our door locks, the secured entries, the additional security measures and policies that we put in place, we're doing a good job. And I think we even do a good job on identifying students that need help. Where I think that disconnect is finding the available, again, those things that were mentioned as far as what we need to do as far as getting students who we identify that help that they actually do.
One of the good things about it, we had a table, there were 3 different school districts, I believe, set that table, so we got some good interaction on what was going on in other school districts. Very helpful and very insightful. Any questions? Thank you very much. Reports to principals, Mr. Swanson.
Good evening. A few things going on. Football, obviously, is doing very well. We're hosting Galena this Friday night. That'll be for the district championship. It's likely but not certain we will host the first round of the playoffs. If something interesting happens next week and Caney Valley happens to lose a game and then we're tied with Fredonia, we would not host, but that's kind of iffy. But it looks like we'll host the first round. Cross country, they start their postseason. They have regionals in Chanute this Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow night is senior night for volleyball, so if you haven't made a match, come on out and at least be there for senior night. That's between the 6 and 7 o'clock matches. And then their sub-state starts this Saturday as well. They're also at Chanute. So drive on over for cross country, go out to eat, and stay for some volleyball. State tennis, we took 4 girls to state tennis. Allie Hicks, Kelsey Smith, Grayson Freeze, and Xavier Womack Johnson all made it. Grayson ended up medaling. I don't know how she finished today. She was playing at about noon or 2 o'clock. She got 12th. Okay, so Grayson had guaranteed herself a medal going into today's action. Scholars Bowl, we got a sponsor. Michelle Smith is going to sponsor Scholars Bowl. She had a meeting last week and 8 kids showed up for the first meeting. She said there's more that couldn't make it to that meeting. So we think we're going to have a Scholars Bowl team of double-digit kids, which is great because it's brand new. She's putting in some requisitions for buzzer system, some books and things like that. And then debate, they've had 2 students qualify for state so far. Alyssa Garmacher, I butcher that name every time, and Alexis Harper. They qualified for state in debate, and that list will grow as the season goes on. They have more opportunities to qualify. So those are some activity things. Follow up on last meeting, we said that we wanted to rock over here to the east of the building. That got done. We got done about 2 days after board meeting. That was great. We had to wait for it to rain to pack the gravel down. It rained, so it packed it down, but now we're waiting on it to dry out a little bit where we can get the forklift over to the steel that's sitting in the grass. So hopefully by the end of the week, that will be all cleaned up and out of the way. A huge thanks to Mrs. Ray, Mr. Castle, for getting that track redone. Fantastic. And if it lasts another 12 years, you got a great return on your investment. It's great to get our football players back out at their home for practice as well. We're starting a book study at the high school, thanks to John and Shelley for their idea. I'll give them credit. It was absolutely their idea. On Manny Scott's book, even on the worst day, you can be your student's best hope. I've asked staff to participate if they would like. We have had pretty good feedback on that. I started a Google Classroom today. That's brand new to me. We're a Google school, so I thought I'd better learn how to do a Google Classroom. So instead of a face-to-face book study, there are 5 people enrolled with me, and we're going to do a virtual book study with assignments and online posts. And John found the discussion questions that go along with the book from ASCD, so that's fantastic. We got everything we need to do it. And then finally, we had our first site council meeting on Wednesday. I got to meet some new people, see some new faces, as well as some familiar ones. The one common theme was people are pretty happy with the new math department. That was a pretty common theme. Kids are saying good things about the new math teachers. That was a refreshing change, I understand, but that was a pretty common theme throughout. At the end of the meeting was pretty happy with our math teachers.
The track is open to the public for walking, correct?
It is. We sent a picture to the Parsons Sun today, and they were going to put something in there and get it in the paper tomorrow.
Very good.
It does look beautiful.
It
Yeah,
does.
it's
It's
really
nice.
We kind of staged a picture, had some kids
Oh,
walk
really?
at us, and took a picture of it. It looks fantastic. We had to get some of the painting and numbers in the shot. But it looks fantastic.
It really does.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Middle school, Mr. Cox and Mr. Gordon.
All right. We went through our list of things that we wanted to talk about today, and we've kind of pared it down, and I'm just going to hit some highlights because we've got so many things to talk about from the middle school. We've had a smooth beginning to the year. Our discipline numbers are down for the year. Our positive interactions are up. To give you a comparison, for the time frame of 9/16 through 10/14 last year, at that time we had 73 discipline referrals. Same time frame for this year, we're down to 65, and that's a lot to do with our positive interactions, getting out and meeting people and talking with them. We've reviewed all of our behavior expectations, and then I challenged the staff on Friday to come back today and review those to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so far, it's worked out very, very well. Our positive interactions, our contacts that we've had from September 17th through October 14th, in person, and this is including our parent-teacher conferences, approximately 830 positive contacts where we've said something about a student or just had a positive interaction with a community, staff member, student, whatever. 109 phone calls. Viking of the week and month, we've had 47 nominations. for a grand total of about 986. And I give credit to Mr. Gordon for organizing that and setting that up. He's done a fabulous job in that area. Our fundraiser ended. We are cautiously optimistic about meeting our goal. We got a preliminary report and we are up about 30% from where we were last year. So as soon as the final numbers come through, we'll be so excited about that. Product will be delivered on November 1st. Oh, our Facebook. We have had so many people like our Facebook. 444 page likes. Our numbers are up again, 149 in the last 28 days. We've reached 23.7K if you're a Facebooker. I'm not. But 23.7K people, 949 people have visited our page to see something interesting and obnoxious when I get on there and do my rapping. Okay?
What's that page called?
Parsons Middle School.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And, I've been challenged again to continue my process of entertaining the students through my lunch menu. And so I'm going to continue to do that to continue the interest there. We're coming up on our annual community hot dog night on October 30th. It'll be our first home basketball game for the girls. We're going to be playing Coffeeville. Last year it was a huge success. The staff have already come up with their hot dog recipes, and we're in the process of getting the ingredients and setting that up. Last week, first of all, I need to give a big shout out to Debbie Alvord. She sponsored our anti-bullying week and provided staff with activities, and we had student announcements every morning to sponsor that, and it was really a huge success. The high school is working on their social emotional well-being with the book study. We're doing that as well. I was asked at our staff development about college classes, having students or having the staff pay for college credit. I've reached out to LCC to see if they would be willing to do that. I haven't heard back yet, but as soon as I do, I'll keep you all informed on that. We are also doing the classroom, and that's why the staff felt that it was appropriate that if they're doing that kind of work, that they want the opportunity to be able to get the credit for it. Yeah. Next week, we're going to host a Day of Tolerance on the 23rd. Kayla Robinson had this idea, and she's going to sponsor this for the school. During our lunch, we're going to have some conversation starters out on the tables. We're going to ask students to sit in different spots throughout the lunchroom and to get to know each other on a different level. She's very excited about this. I'm excited about the opportunity to get to know the kids a little bit differently. She's got some exciting ideas and activities planned. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gordon.
And so I'm going to start off with our Viking of the month. Once a month, we recognize a student for demonstrating the expectations that we have, the behavioral expectations that we have inside of our building, that are a part of our Viking way. It's sponsored by the local Elks Lodge. We select one student from 6th to 8th grade that goes above and beyond what we expect, and they will receive a $10 gift card from Bleacher Gear, courtesy of the Elks. Then we ask them to join us here at the school board meetings so they can be recognized publicly here at the school board on YouTube. We also recognize them on Facebook. This month we have Jeremy Posier as our Viking of the month. He was nominated by 5 of our staff members, and I'll just run through those nominations really quick. Jeremy has stepped up to being a leader and a role model inside of the class. He goes out of his way to assist other students who may not be as athletically inclined as others. He is definitely the student athlete that people look up to. That was the first one. The second one, excellent leader. The students he is around look up to him. He sets a great example to the other students throughout the whole building. The third one just says great role model in all capitals and exclamation points. The fourth one, excellent role model and very accountable. And the last one, he goes above and beyond the expectations of normal responsibilities as a student. He is a leader not only in my classroom but in the hallways as well. Jeremy is an excellent role model for our students. And so if you look at all of those, you've got excellent role model and leader. is mentioned in all 5 of those. And so I think that that demonstrates our Viking way.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a broken arm.
And so I'm going to continue with our activities. Our football 8th grade is 3-3, 7th grade is 2-4. Our last game is against Fort Scott this Thursday. We have an early start time. Normally 7th grade starts at 5 p.m. This week we'll be starting at 4 p.m. so that Fort Scott can get their kids back at a decent time. Volleyball, football, we still have 36 participants in the club or in our on the team right now. Some are injured, but they're still a part of the team. They're still showing up. Volleyball, we have 45 participants is what we finished with. 7th grade finished 17-13 and 8th grade finished 19-11. Girls tennis also wrapped up their season. They finished with 8 girls. The Winfield tournament is their last and their toughest competition. Mia Hetlinger for our number 1 singles team, she took 8th place. Brooke Duroni is our number 2 singles. She took 7th place. Autumn Shields and Lakin Geiger, they were both together. They're our number 1 doubles team. They took 10th place. Jazzy Palmer and Ariel Adams took 8th place as our number 2 doubles team. Choir just held their first concert at the high school on the 10th. They had 73 participants from the middle school. Orchestra plays this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the high school. They have 31 participants. Band is playing next Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the high school. They have 16 participants. The middle school chess team just won the ARMA chess tournament, and they won it by 20 points. And so that's a dominating fashion inside of that sport. And they're headed to the Columbus tournament this Saturday. And at the middle school, we have 25 kids that are participating in that a couple times a week. Fishing Club still has 30 participants and is hosting their first fishing tournament this Saturday for kids and their parents to join from 9 to 11 a.m. and then they're going to grill and eat out afterwards. We've recently received permission from Keisha to start an open course at the Katy Golf Club. The course is open for middle school students to participate chipping and putting and even play some holes. Paul Duroni is the sponsor of that, and we thank him for giving his time. The annual Lebec County Spelling Bee was held on Wednesday, October 10th at Oswego High School. We're proud to announce that Davis Clark participated in this event and took first place. He now goes on to the state competition in the spring. We've also got a class leadership program. This will be our first opportunity to participate in it this Wednesday. It's a sustainable leadership program that will make a difference within our kids, and they in turn will make a difference within our entire school. The new program will head to Columbus this Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 2:45 for their first meeting. These kids will meet 3 times and lead and learn leadership strategies that they can bring back to our school to help make a difference. Sharing strategies and camaraderie with students from the other 2 schools is a big plus of this program. The other 2 schools is Columbus and Frontenac.
You have a lot going on.
We do.
Very, very
Yeah, we're
positive.
just running through it.
And Davis is a repeater because last
Yeah.
year he won the county spelling bee as well, so.
Went to Hayes.
They'll get to go, yeah, he went to Hayes, and so they will go again.
What grade is he in?
7th grade.
7th grade.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Good work. Keep it up. Ms. Russell, Ms. Gardner, and Mr. Priest fights playing football.
It is.
Good evening. In an effort to establish meaningful relationships with our students at Garfield, a month ago we started Garfield Little Families. There are 4 to 5 students in each group, and they each have a family leader. The leaders are staff in our school as well as case managers from our new mental health pilot program. Each family has a family name and a mascot. A special handshake that they do at the beginning and the end of their time together. And then when they see each other throughout the day, they do their special handshake. During this time, we have things for the groups to talk about. But more than anything, the rest of the students listen while they each take turns. And they are meeting weekly on Mondays at 8:15, kind of like a check-in. And we currently have 40 students who are in these little families, and they were all recommended by their teachers. And our goal is to have every child in the building in a little family after Christmas. Another new thing that we're doing this year is, and I'll pass this around, we've got a bright yellow cart in my office, and it holds birthday books for students. And so with title funds at the end of last year, we ordered 200 books. And at our opening assembly every morning, I call out the names of the students with birthdays, and then they come in and they pick out whatever book they want, and they seem to really like having a new book. And then the last thing is this Friday is, well, not this Friday, the following Friday, October 26th at 2:15 is our first 9 weeks awards assembly.
So how do you do the summer birthdays?
Well, in August, they get their birthday book from July, and then then in May, they would get it for June.
She is working.
We work them in.
Must be a summer boy.
I was a summer birthday too.
For our last in-service, Lincoln, we watched The Freedom Riders, and then we are going to do a book study also. We're going to do the book study, Turning the Page, a memoir by Manny Scott. So they've got all their books today, and
I read mine over the weekend.
Did you?
The whole thing. It's a really good book.
It's a really good
That's the gentleman we went to see at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah, and we're going to switch with the middle school after we're done, so we can read the book that they're reading now, and then they can read our book. Huh?
What are you reading?
Even on your worst day, you can be a student's best hope.
Very good.
And Manny Scott.
Manny Scott wrote that one also. So we're working on those 2 R's. Kindergarten will be going to the pumpkin patch on Friday, and they're going to be doing some activities that go along with their science standard, the 3.1.4, that they're going to examine the parts of living things. And then Mrs. McGuire's class was doing a fun little thing with phonics that I thought I would share. She has these little bibs that the kids wear, and they'll all have them, and she'll give them a word, and if they are part of that word, they have to go up, and then they have to figure out what part of the word they are. So, in the middle, and she said, they're 2 different colors, so you always have to have an orange. So I just thought that was kind of a fun little way that she's working in those standards for reading.
Very good. Any questions?
Yeah, about the Halloween parties. Since you're not going to have school in the afternoon, when are the parties?
In the morning.
And so we're going to do ours in
They're
the
going to
morning.
have, Garfield will have a parade at 10 o'clock, and they're parading to LCC, and then the parties, 10:30 to 11:30, eat lunch, go home.
That's kind of what we're going to do too. We're going to have a party and
I just wondered.
the parade. Yeah,
First year that
we're going to have them come in costume though, because they're just so little, and they're going to start the
And it
parade.
takes so long to get them all dressed.
Yeah,
so.
it does. So, we're going to tell them that they can bring clothes if they want to change out of them before lunch, but we're going to do that. And on our preschool PM, we'll have their party the day before on October 30th. So,
Anything else? Thank you, ladies. Do you have any word from Mr. Priest?
I do not.
Moving on. 10.0, old business, the change in high school eligibility policy. Mr. Swanson, you're up again. It's on page 32 of your packet, folks.
You want me to talk about it real quick?
Please.
Okay. In a nutshell, I know you've all had a chance to read that, but in a nutshell, we have a policy that's very, very difficult to administer. Keisha has a policy in place that all member schools are to follow. My recommendation is we go with the Keisha policy. However, if we want a more stringent policy, I just need a little direction from the board on what you would like to see as far as eligibility goes. So I'll turn it over to you guys for discussion.
I appreciated your input on this, and we still will have tutoring after school for those who need it, and
We have that, we have
every program.
English,
that we
math,
do.
and science, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's not very well attended right now. But we do have that offered for the students.
Because there's not a need, do you think?
There's probably a need, but there's not a push that they have to go to tutoring.
Okay.
So that the teachers will continue to do grade checks. Coaches will continue to do grade checks. I know Linda has some historical information about that. I thought it was very interesting.
I just went back, and I know you were probably at the high school in 1997 when this was put in, and it was a big discussion item at that time. And the board voted on it. It took them 3 months to decide, whether they were going to do it or not. And at the end of 3 months.
I was on the board.
That's what I was going to say. I'm on
There
Libby's
was a lot of
because
discussion.
she had the inside information on that.
When they did vote on it, the high school principal at that time discouraged it for the same reason that I think Eric has said. Why would we make it tougher for our kids in Parsons than we do all over the whole state? And the thing of it is, so if a kid flunks 2 classes at the high school, they will then be ineligible to play here. But they can go anywhere else to any other school in Lebec County. That's not correct?
They can fail 2 classes and still be eligible if they're enrolled in 7.
Yes.
They have to pass
They have
5.
to fail 3.
The rule is passing 5 classes. There's
Right.
nothing
Right.
about failing classes.
That's
Right.
true, pass 5.
But what
But
we
what
have
you're
to do
saying
in
is right. They could
Parsons.
go south and
But-
play.
Okay, but we have to do 6. I mean, they can't play. But if they flunk 2, then they could go to any other school in Lebec County and participate. And I think, it's been proven that interscholastic sports keeps kids and keeps them connected. And I just think we've done all this with, the ACE training and the kids that need a connection, and then we want to make our rule more stringent. And I just thought it was interesting when you go back and look, it wasn't, the administration, discouraged it at that time, but it was a 4-3 vote, so it was difficult then. And I really want you to consider what we're doing to our kids.
I think that a lot of schools, probably more schools than don't, have a more stringent policy than the KSHSAA. I think that probably if you did a survey on the listserv, that you would find that probably 3/4 or more of the schools in this state have something more stringent than passing 5 for this semester. I talked to a coach from Neodesha yesterday. They have a 1F policy.
And I was at Russell last year, and they went to a 1F policy from a 2. And as a coach of 2 sports, it was brutal. You never knew week to week who you were going to have. And we had one instance where, and I wasn't coaching football, but I know we had a football player who was down in an English class because he had not done well on a paper. And he couldn't be eligible for 4 more weeks because the English teacher just said there's not going to be enough points in class to make up for that. So he missed 4 games as a sophomore starter because of 1 paper. That's not that kid's fault when the teacher says there's not going to be enough points to make that up. Yes, the kid did not do well on the paper, I get that. But there was no opportunity to get off of there. And that's just inherently wrong.
Well, I wrote a letter to Mr. Musselman in 2014, and I was confused because I was for the stringent policy, but I did a little homework since then. And what I found out was that when the original Rule 13 was put into effect, we only had 6 courses offered during the day, and therefore you had to pass 5 out of those 6. And then later in the 80s, we went to 7-period day, and most schools kept the past 5 classes. And some, like us, went to, you have to pass 6 classes. So, and then Mr. Musselman said that that Rule 13 was determined by 75 members of CASHA. And he said that none of those members chose to change that rule. And I got that in writing. So, but the research that I found is just what you said, and what you said, Linda, is that most of the research shows that Texas went to the no pass, no play in I can't remember when it was, but they went to that in 1985. And what they found was they were losing more kids academically as well as athletically or for debate or music. And it had a negative impact by being that stringent. So I've changed my, like Joanne said, we've got Gear Up, we've got JAG, we've got community and schools, we've got tutoring programs. There's no way that any student should flunk. If they do, it's because they're not doing anything. If they're not doing anything, they shouldn't participate, period.
I guess one of the things I would like to know is, as far as specifically what are our counselors and teachers and coaches doing on a routine basis to make sure they're making the grades? Because of, as far as last year with our former athletic director, to my recollection, we had a policy in place that was there to identify these struggling students. To that extent, I agree, because that's why I was definitely for it last year, because when we did change it last year, it was, the heart of it was to identify those students and get them the help and push them in.
Support there, yes.
Correct. So my question is, how can we keep that, even though it is a convoluted system, and again, this was in the past, but how can we keep that in going forward?
You mean keep checking on kids?
Correct.
Making sure that
Be
they
able
got
to,
the
the heart
supports.
of what we changed last year as far as identifying and helping those students. How can we keep that in place?
I thought the coaches asked for a grade check.
I know that Coach Houck does that right now. He's not even in season.
Exactly.
I know that Coach Wade has done that with football.
And they would personally help them with
And
after-school
they go
tutoring.
get kids and they're like, what do we need to do in your English class? What do we need to do in whatever class it is?
And Viking.
I don't know about the other ones.
Viking Time does another opportunity to get help.
Yeah, there's another thing, talk about giving kids opportunities to not fail.
Kinda like a study
That's
hall.
Every day.
Well, we have all
study
sorts
hall.
of things to help these kids not fail. I think to me, it's the identification. Yeah, who's checking on it? Okay, so these coaches are actively, proactively looking for these students. What about these other debate or, theater? What about the other teachers?
And you can do an eligibility, the high school does an eligibility F policy that's ran out of Infinite Campus through the counselor's office.
So why is this so difficult?
Well, and
Well,
I think
it's all the tiers, and this is level 1, and this kid's a red, and he goes to here, and
he's off for
Instead-
2 weeks and then he can play for a week and then, I think that was what made it difficult.
But when we did it last year, I remember reading it and thinking, I thought it was complicated.
It was.
Well, I'll give you, for instance, what happened last year. We had a track kid, and there was a track meet on Friday, and then we had all these complaints. He's ineligible, he's got 2 Fs. Well, the way it was explained to me was, you were eligible for that whole week, so he got to go even though he had an F. But then the next week, he became ineligible,
But only till he got it back up.
and then he
And
became eligible.
Then he became eligible, but if the teacher didn't have any grades to put in, then he was still going to be ineligible, or if there weren't enough points.
To get him off the F list.
Right. But I think you're right. We want to make sure our kids are supported, and in Viking Time, that homeroom teacher person is checking on those grades, those coaches are pulling grades, and they're providing all of those opportunities, all of those programs that Lou and Joanne mentioned, so that they are supported.
And how we would check that would be Mr. Swanson and Mr. Barkus. If the board so desires that, then, they would monitor it and make sure
Well,
that
I
kids
think
were-
Mrs. Spriggs did it last year.
Well,
I think
I
she's the
think
one
that's
that
why
did all
student
the
council-
tracking of it, because she even expressed to me, she said it was almost impossible to do. She had flow charts and spreadsheets and trying to figure out which kid was on what level and what tier and what they were supposed to do. She said it was difficult. I don't know if there's a perfect answer for this.
Here's another little thing that I wasn't aware of. In 1980, this school district, you only needed 17 units to graduate.
Okay, right now, we need 21. If you
And
pass
then in
5,
1993, we went to 21. So a lot of that hadn't been taken into consideration through Keisha.
Right, and if they make 5 a year, then that's 20, and they only have to make up 1, and they've got their 21.
Exactly.
Now, in Parsons, you cannot walk until you have 25, but you can graduate with
Right.
21. So, why would we, but that's my opinion only.
But I'm with David. We just need to be a little, like, debate, music. I don't know if that's putting more work on the teacher, but obviously you would want to know what your kids are doing, passing their classes.
And there's only one time a year where it affects the music groups, actually 2, and that's when they go to large group contests and then they have their small ensemble competitions. Those are both in the spring.
So it's a different ballgame.
Debate would be a fall sport, forensics being a spring sport. I know we get wrapped up into all the athletics, but you're right, there's a lot of other activities in there.
So is it our expectation, do you think, that each coach does their eligibility check, or should it be the counselor? Is there something systematic we could have, or?
It should be everybody,
Well,
And I know our
that's true.
counselors are really on top of students. Tabitha and Tony are constantly visiting with kids, and I don't want to say constantly running reports. I mean, they run the report on, I believe it's Friday morning. The thing we've done with Viking time has helped, where students with no D's or F's and no attendance issues, they're exempt from Friday afternoon. That's been really big. Seniors don't have a Viking time unless they're failing a class they need to graduate. We have one kid. We have one kid in Viking time that's a senior. Everyone else is on track right now. Because that's been a huge carrot to put in front of them is, you don't have to go to Viking time, seniors. So I think we have some things in place to motivate, and they're more on the positive end. If you'll do the right things, then here's some things we can do to reward you. Instead of punitive.
We are doing a weekly grade check in the counselor's office.
Yes.
And that information is going to people who need to know it.
Olivia, what are your thoughts on this? You've seen
I don't
this.
even remember how I voted before. I'm so confused.
I don't care how you
I think I
voted.
voted to make it more.
Well, I think when originally, all I did was the original one, and it's been looked at several times.
But we only changed it to my recollection, because we've looked at it 4 times since I've been on the board. We only changed it last year,
Right,
since Olivia was on the board.
right.
And so they only said who voted against it, and your name is not listed.
I'm sure I didn't. Because Olivia had her own. I raised 3 boys that played sports, but I had my own expectations, and that's what,
Right.
it didn't matter what you all said. I hate to say that. It didn't matter. And,
I think that's my problem here, because last year, I hesitated to support something that moved away from a more stringent standard, but it was brought to us with, yes, we can be more stringent, we just need to do it more strategically. And then it doesn't sound like it happened.
No, it didn't.
And so now we're faced as a board with, we used to be this way, now we moved to a middle ground, it didn't happen, now we're moving back to the CASHA standards. And I understand the CASHA standards, and I don't have a problem with them. I believe we do have a lot of support mechanisms in place. I have graduated 2 kids myself from this district. I've graduated from this district. I'm struggling with students who can't stay on top of their grades and not pass. And so, for that reason, I wish we had another option on the table, but that's fine. I'm going to vote against this change for the mere fact that I don't want to move back to CASHA because I don't think it's right. I think we have plenty in place in this district, and I don't think we're setting our students up for success, and maybe we're not setting them up for success if they can't play sports. But if they can't pass classes here, they're not going to pass classes at a community college they're not going to pass them at a university. And so I'm going to vote against it, but I'm just one of 7. So it has nothing to do with the proposal. It has everything to do with
And
my
understand,
position.
I don't take it personal at all.
Sure.
I'm just bringing it to you. And this is the first time tonight I heard anything about last year. I didn't realize this was something that was brought to you even last
It
year.
was just last year. It was kind of a hybrid of, let's not go to Acacia, but let's move to a middle ground. And I think we all thought, hey, if we could solve this problem with a middle ground, even though, like Joanne, being an educator, is like, that kind of sounds like a lot of work.
Well, I'm not against work, but I.
No.
But I did think it was right. Mhm. Yeah.
And so that's just my thought. I think we got a lot of things in place and to help students. And I feel like our students ought to be able to pass. And as Olivia said, I have different standards, and so I have to vote my own standards. But, I'm one of 7. So it's my 2 cents.
Well, I think, back when we did implement it, I don't think we had everything that we have in place now.
No, we didn't. We didn't have half as much in place.
And I don't ever want to not have high expectations. I mean, that's our goal. I mean, we want our kids to do the very best they can and to graduate and go on and be successful. But, I just kind of feel like we should go with what Keisha.
Well, I
The
watched
Keisha
what our
expectations.
football coaches have done and our weight training coaches have done, how they've changed the programs around. They had high expectations, including academics, when I talked to Kurt Fries and Dante. And they want their kids to do well academically. We've made a big turnaround in this school district in the last year as far as helping our kids. And you're right, we didn't have all these programs. Now, do all those programs, are they all successful? From what I've been finding out, so far they are. And you said, Eric, that what you would like is to go to the Acacia, passing 5 classes. You have a Viking time in place as a study hall for those kids that need it, that are participants in the activities, correct? Mm-hmm. As well as JAG, Gear Up, and community and schools. And I think you said the same thing, right, Linda?
And I wonder if it would help the board make a decision if we really looked at how many kids
This
are
affects,
ineligible.
absolutely.
How many kids, because I know one of you just said, sometimes it's a kid, it's not 2 classes, it's 4 or 5 classes. Those are the kids that really, and changing the policy wouldn't help
Exactly.
them. But maybe if you wanted to wait for more information, we could get some more.
And I will say, at this point in time, I'm not operating on what's in that handbook. Like I said, I don't even know how to administer it. So if we want to wait another month, that's fine. Let's get it right if we're going to do it. But I'm not sure what to do with
What
those.
policy are you implementing?
I'm not
Just
working on
Acacia
any
policy, I
right
assume?
now. I am because, like I
Okay.
said, I'm not sure what to do.
Because the thing with that policy is that they do grade checks and then you're ineligible for a certain number of weeks and then you move to different color codes
Yeah.
based on how many weeks it's been. And then you get into then there weren't any points, so how could they do any better? They're still ineligible, but not because they haven't done work, but because there weren't enough. It's really quite problematic.
And maybe then the policy needs to be either you pass 5 or you pass 6, and we take out all this other stuff.
I think the most effective one that I've had to deal with was in Scott City, where you could not be failing 2 classes. All right, so once you had 2 Fs, you were ineligible. However, those 2 Fs had to be in the same class consecutive weeks. So that sounds bad, but it's not too bad with Excel. You could fail English and math, and the next week could be math and social studies, and the next week could be social studies and science, and you're still eligible because it's not 2 straight weeks in those classes.
But it's still
The 1 F is really tough. The 2 can work, but I don't know if you'd want to say just two, and it doesn't matter if they're consecutive, or you're just down in two, you're ineligible.
Or if you do it a quarter at a time or a semester.
And that's something I hadn't even thought of. You can,
Because if we do it a week at a time, that's
Yeah.
still someone managing, okay, here's everybody on the debate team, here's everybody on the chess team, and I mean, it's just a lot of management, so.
but we could do it.
Mhm.
If that's the direction you want to go, we can certainly do something like that too.
I talked to Eric, and I told him I really was concerned about this policy, but I would support it because I want to support our principals. But I really think that something a little more stringent than passing 5 a semester, because that means they can not be on track. I don't get, if they want to do it that way, they could fail 4 subjects during football season and still be eligible. Not be eligible second semester, but do anything in sports activities anyhow. Work their tails off the second semester, pass 5, eligible for football next year, run that whole cycle, and never even be close to graduating. Not even be close.
That was my only problem, was you can't graduate even if you meet CASA standards.
Yeah, you're still one short.
I'm struggling with that, but.
And I would think that maybe a listserv, we still have listserv with KSB?
We do. That was one of the things they told us at the new superintendent's workshop. Do not hit reply all. Because superintendents will send out questions, and so I can easily send out a question to all the superintendents on the listserv and get their feedback, if that's something, in regard to the policies that they have and whether they're more stringent. Or just.
I just don't think.
I had a policy in my schools that it was, 1 F was okay, 2 Fs wasn't, but 2 Ds counted as an F. And we had very few kids ineligible. Although I will say, small school, small classes, makes a difference.
Times has changed.
Yeah. But I don't think, we don't know how many are ineligible, because that's not something we've really counted.
You track, let's track it for a month and see
We
what
can go
we come up with, what it looks like.
And some other possibilities,
Yeah, and
maybe
I
at
think
the quarter.
Tabitha and everybody, and the AD director, and everybody come and get together and kind of make some better policy in place. That's easier to track, that's not so burdensome on everybody,
We're not
but
enforcing current policy anyhow.
Yeah, and I'll take the bullet for that one. I'll be glad to. But I want to do right by kids though as well.
Right.
And I put that in the write-up that I had. When one coach tells me, do I need to be running eligibility this week because I need to make sure my kids are eligible? And the other coach says, they told us not to worry about it. The coaches don't have to do it. You've got one coach that's doing it for their program and another that has been told not to. There's just no consistency there whatsoever. So you want me to get some feedback? You want me to
Yeah.
figure out how many kids
And
would
we'll
this
table
be?
it for this. Do we need a motion to table it?
Is the 2F thing kind of is that what I'm kind of looking at? Is, how many kids would be ineligible on the 2F policy right now?
I think just see where our kids are at right now.
Okay.
And then decide.
Maybe where they were at last year too. I don't know what kind of data that takes, but historical data kind of tells you maybe it's available, maybe it's not. I don't want to put a lot of more work on you or the counselors or anybody like that.
I don't know how to go
Because
find it.
ultimately, I think the students own their grades, okay? When they get to my class and I don't get something entered into a grade book, the students are on me saying, why is my grade not entered? So they own it when they turn 18 and they get to my class at the college level. They need to own it here. And so all this work we're
Be
doing.
allowed to own it here.
Yeah.
Be allowed to own it.
Well, they do need to be allowed to
Yeah,
own it.
and I think we'll see a change in that too. I don't think they've been allowed in the past to own it here. So I think we'll see a change in that too.
So they own
I
it.
know they begged for grades to be put in the past.
They need to be put in.
Exactly.
Because they demand it. And I do it for my students, so our staff need to be doing it. And that's another topic for another day. But historically, I don't know, as was said, are we dealing with a lot of people on the 1 to 2F line? Or are we dealing with just a few? Because it might be, we got a lot of people on the 2 to 3F line, and then this policy doesn't matter anyway. I don't know what we're dealing with. And I thought maybe that was presented to us last year. How many people
Yeah, he had some.
My recollection was Matt Rogers sat right there and said, this is the number of people this would have impacted if we implement this. So maybe that's an option to evaluate that before we take action.
Okay, good. I think I'm hearing kind of that we want to table this, so I hear a motion to table this until next month.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Joanne. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I would commend the board on making a discussion about it and having some open dialogue. I don't know that it's been done. So,
Figure it out.
We do.
Okay, moving to new business, item 11.0, action to accept donations. Lori, you want to read those to us, please?
Sure.
It's on page 33 of your packet.
Okay, so for the month of September, the district office received money from the Parsons Area Community Foundation of a Forge family donation for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library of $2,000. Class of 1972 has adopted the class of 2022, and so they gave a donation of $1,500. So for the district office totals, that was $3,500 for the month. Garfield, there was a fundraiser for field trips for $978. Teacher supplies from the PTO, $1,100. PTO for parent-teacher conference meals. They pay so the staff can eat for $2,228. Donations there. At Lincoln, 2 donations from the PTO, one for teacher supplies at $1,400, parent-teacher conference meals at $175 for a total of $1,575. At Guthridge, 2 elementary PTO donations for parent-teacher conference meals at $150 and teacher supplies at $1,200 for a total of $1,350. Parsons High School had a total of $3,336. They had gotten a donation of $357 from Herman Lumber for the club entrepreneurship sign. Positive reinforcement stuff came from Interstate Studio, donation at $239. The Parsons Rec made a donation to the football team, $320, and then Taco Mayo to the Entrepreneurship Club, $2,400 and $2,420 for that total of $3,336. So in September, the district received a total of $11,494 in donations.
Move to approve those donations.
Motion from Jeff, second. Second, is that Joanne? Olivia? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. 11.1, action for early graduation requests.
Okay, in your packet earlier, or in your view on Friday, there were, maybe in this packet. Let's see if it's on this. I sent it in the view on Friday. I'm not sure if it's in this packet. So there were listed 3 students, and actually, when I called over to the high school and double-checked in regard to paperwork and things being finished, there is the very first student listed has filled out the paperwork and would like to go part-time. And then we have 2.
Is that early graduation, right?
I have 2 early graduation. Oh, is that what we're doing first? Okay, early graduation. I have 2 requests. There were 2 requests, and all of those requirements have been met. So I would recommend that you approve those 2.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jeff to approve. Have a second, somebody?
Second.
Second by Joanne. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. 11.2, part-time students.
Okay, I got ahead of myself. Okay, so there was a list of 3 students that were sent, the names were sent over. The only student that has filled out the appropriate paperwork is the very first student listed, so I would recommend that you approve the part-time status for the 1 student. The other 2 students, when they found out they had to be enrolled in at least part-time, or actually more than part-time in order to participate in activities. They want to participate in activities in the spring. And so I recommend that you approve the first student on that list.
I move that we approve it.
Motion by Olivia, second
Jeff.
by Jeff to approve that student for part-time status. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Hold on, you've got a special circumstance student?
And that simply is just a note for the counselors, because sometimes when foreign exchange students attend, they receive a certificate of completion instead of a diploma.
11.3, discussion and possible action on bus transportation for the 2019-20 school year. Mrs. Ray.
Okay, here we go. After our October the 1st board meeting, I did reach back out to Durham again. I'm sure you remember prior to that, I shared that day that I had reached out to him, and we had 2 appointments scheduled, both of which he called and canceled. Chuck Mosquito from Durham. So I did call him that day, and I was able to visit with him on the phone. And he said he was in a meeting and would get me the contract information as soon as possible, and he would email that to me. As of today, I have still received nothing from Durham.
The information you have in front of you is transportation costs for 17-18 from Durham, a total cost of $346,000 plus.
For next year is what it's projected with. And that's with the verbal increase of 15%, which they've still not provided in writing. And so at that board meeting, I think Jeff had asked for us to come up with some projected numbers for costs if 503 provided their own transportation. And so Tanya and Linda and I have been working on all kinds of numbers and looking, and this is what the total cost there.
And to throw some more information, we already pay for the monitors.
Right.
And we already pay for the fuel in that bottom projected cost.
We do.
So we could see a pretty good savings. Other than we have to purchase some buses and put up a building of some sort.
That's a big savings.
It is a big savings after the initial purchase of the buses. So, but really, at this point, I just need to know from the board if you'd like me to continue to try to get a hold of Mr. Mosquito.
So this is just verbal, you said?
Yeah, he will give me nothing in writing. He's canceled our last 2 appointments, and then when I called him, he said, "Oh yes, I'll get it to you, and I waited a week and never heard. I called and left a message on his voicemail, got no response. I called the next week and left a message on his voicemail and got no response. To me, that's telling me they don't want our service. They don't want our business. It's what that's saying to me.
Yeah, I would think that we don't need to communicate with that individual any further. Because if we were to contract with them, I think it would get worse.
I think it's quite possible.
In our last meeting, we talked about visiting with neighboring districts about whether they wanted to share and so forth. So looks like our 2 options now are either sharing with neighboring districts to share certain fixed costs or doing our own thing. And so I think my own thought process would be, let's continue down that route to see if we can share. If not, to share fixed costs. And if we can't, then start moving towards our own situation. But that's just my own financial mind thinking about it. Just try to share some costs if possible.
And we had visited with another district that's going to be pulling out, of the contract with Durham as well, and they were willing to share those costs in regard to, the director of transportation, the maintenance, those kinds of things, at a certain percentage per bus. But we would still be required to purchase our own buses and have our own bus barn and employ our own drivers and all of those things. But so we could for sure look to see if their 4% per bus is what he quoted me earlier, if that was still, and what that might be. We could look at that.
But this time, I think we need to notify Durham that we're no longer going to have a contract with them following this current contract that ends this summer. And getting that would need to be in a motion sometime tonight. And then I think we need to ask our superintendent to begin looking at a plan for buses, what size of buses we need, approximate cost of those buses, and possibly even the possibility of a bus barn, which that may be, I'll put off a little bit of time yet, but I think we need to know by December, the buses we're gonna have to buy to get those ordered, because they're not gonna be sitting in a lot somewhere, probably ready for us to pick up. Hopefully they would be, but we need to be moving forward on our buses, which I think tonight we for sure need to make a motion to let Durham know that we're no longer gonna be working with them for this year.
I'll make that motion to terminate the Durham contract effective
June the 30th, 2019.
June
June
30th.
the 30th, 2019. And then that would be the motion. I would keep it that simple
Okay.
for tonight.
Have a second, anyone?
Second.
Second, motion by Jeff, second by David, to notify Durham that we will end our contract with them on June 30th of 2019. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Continuing on our discussion of buses, does that seem feasible to have Lori provide for us by next month information on busing? The buses we would need, approximate costs, and possibly information from neighboring districts that might be able to work with us.
And now that we formally terminated the contract with Durham, I think people know we're serious about moving in a different direction, so it seems reasonable.
Okay. Moving right along. 11.4, discussion on the district, I'm sorry. 11.35. I jumped over to 11.35, I'm sorry. We have 2 bids for concrete work on the, at Lincoln. We did have someone show up today who thought they might want to be involved, have not provided a bid. So a couple options we'd have would be to table this and see what another bid is, or accept the bids that we have and move forward. If we table it, I would think we would need to tell the company they need to get something to us post haste, because winter is coming.
Right, that's my
It is. Tonight's going to be really cold.
4 inches of snow in Wichita yesterday is coming. So what are your wishes?
Are we, since these bids that we have, as I look over the handwritten bids, they're not, I should just say, are we confident that they are for equivalent work, or at least of equivalent specs? That would be my only question.
And I think James felt comfortable with either of these groups. We've had the first group, they've done a lot of curb work and sidewalk work for us in the district this year. So,
Have these been published, these quotes?
No.
no.
Okay. As long as they're all 3 blind to each other, it's not fair to the previous 2 if the
Right,
third party
that's
knows
why
it.
Right, so.
Yeah, we cannot, if we accept these tonight, this bid tonight, we cannot accept a bid from someone else later.
Yeah.
So we have to table this or accept one of these 2 bids.
Was James input on the third company? Is
He
he
doesn't know
comfortable?
anything about them.
Oh,
Well, he'd reached out to the Mission Group in St. Paul, and they were not interested in providing a bid. This is someone that is related to them, that we're not familiar with. But they did come today and look at the areas. Met James at Lincoln. And it's possible when we get to the next item in regard to roofs, that we'll have to have a special board meeting between now and the next one to approve those roof bids. So we could possibly move that to that meeting if, in the next couple of weeks, if that would be something the board would like to do.
I almost think we should go. Oh, we've got, like you said, winter's coming fast, and how long do we think it would be? Like another,
I do not know.
Yeah.
That was not.
What were you thinking on a timeline for a special meeting then, like in the next couple of weeks or
I was
something?
thinking in the next couple of weeks. So we would hope to have more, the roof bids, because we've had people come and look, but they've not turned anything in yet, in writing. So.
So did this other company that did not do the high school sidewalks bid on the high school sidewalks?
Yes, I do believe they did.
Are any of these companies local?
They both are.
Both are?
Mhm.
Parsons? No. Okay. But you said Travers out of St., what'd you say? St.
Well,
Paul?
yeah, he's related to someone in St. Paul. Someone had, at the last board meeting, had said, I want to say Mission, is that right? Construction or something in St. Paul. And so James reached out to them, and they were not interested, but this is a brother-in-law or of some of them, so.
If they're local, I have no problem going to
They did my sign. I called somebody else to fix it.
What was that,
Olivia? That's my
Said I have no
number.
problem going ahead with the, tonight if they're local. And we've used them before. Makes me no difference.
To kind of jump ahead just a second to the roof issue, in talking with Laura this afternoon, if we go to the truss system on the roof, that will require an architect, which will slow that process down considerably.
And a structural engineer, when he
So
talked to them in the
that, if we
city.
were to go that route, then there would probably be no special meeting for the roof in the near future.
I think Mr. Deroni was the one that felt strongly about that, so I think probably he needs to be involved in that discussion since that was his
And we have,
pet project.
yeah, we've had 3 contractors come and look at the roof. One more is to be coming. 2 others won't give a bid. So they weren't, with trusses. Out of the 4, 2 said, here's a bid, we'll write up a bid for a flat roof, but we're not gonna write up a truss bid. And then 2 out of the 4 said, we'd do flat or we'd do truss. But if we do truss, then we have to have a structural engineer and an architect, according to the city. So,
Just threw that out there, so if we want to consider that on the concrete work ahead of time, if we want to move forward with that. I personally am comfortable moving forward with it. We've got 2 companies in our community.
I did look up, and it is Bill Triber, and he and his son Alex of Neosho County did the preparatory work on the stone, the turtle, and the out by Tolan Creek, but it says Neosho County.
What are your wishes, ladies and gentlemen?
I know the first company is the company that's done the work recently at the high school in regard to those curbs and sidewalks and areas, so. And the other company has done some of that they've done other work for us. I don't know that they've done concrete work for us.
So will our motion be to decide between these 2 or to pick one?
We need to pick one.
And you say the first one has done work for us, and it's been
Correct.
good work.
It's been that's the work that you'll see right in front of the high school. They were able to get that area cleaned up and repaired in just a short turnaround time prior to school starting. That's the focus of the work that they do.
Yeah, I make a motion that we go with the first company for our concrete work at Lincoln.
Motion by Joanne to go with Volmer.
I'll second that.
Second by Lou. Any discussion? I'm concerned that we're not looking at low bid for work within the but we think, we have had the company do work for us in the past.
Well, that was my main reason, if it was good.
It was good quality work.
Yeah.
Both companies have worked for the district in the past.
And the other company has worked for the district in the past, but it's not my understanding they've done concrete work.
Oh,
But
Tobel has not done concrete work.
I don't think they've done concrete work in the district, but they've done other work in the district. We'd have to look. I should know at the middle school, they did some things on the roof and with the guttering and flashing and those kinds of things. But they poured my porch at home and it was good. So,
Here we have a motion and a second to accept Vollmer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 5-1. Page turn here. Now we go to 11.4, which is an update on the roof situation at the district office.
Okay, and so it's still raining. When it rains, it still leaks. And so, like I said, there were 4 different companies. 3 of them have been there and looked. 1 more is coming. 2 have said, yes, they'll do a trust bid to get all of the stuff that I've already said. So, but we don't have any bids in writing yet. It's kind of a slow process. I don't think it's,
Well, nothing to do there. We'll move forward. We have an executive session.
Well, can we go ahead and, at that same time, we go ahead and start looking into the cost of an architect, a structural architect, or everything additional if we go down the road of having to add trusses, at least an estimate of what those additional costs would be.
So look for an architect, a different architect.
So the reality is what David, I think what David's saying is, we know that the pitched roof is going to cost more, but since this is an additional cost of the pitched roof, what's this additional cost before we be getting started on the construction? He was just wanting to know, correct?
Thanks for, yes.
And I can
Try to be a little bit more articulate next time.
and I'll do some checking on that. I can do that.
Okay, now, 11.5 executive session. We'll need an executive session for, do you have any?
I have 2 things.
How much time do you need?
10 minutes max.
Let's have an executive session for approximately 30 minutes, because we'll be going over superintendent's evaluation during this time frame. So I'd like to have a motion for 30 minutes.
Move to go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under coma at 7:32 for 30 minutes, returning at 8:02.
Have a second from anyone?
Second.
Motion by David, second by Jeff to go into executive session, to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under coma at 7:32 for 30 minutes, return to the board meeting at 8:02. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. We will call you ladies in. We're back in session. Ready for 11.6, action on personnel. Lori?
Okay, we have two recommendations for employment for High School National Honor Society sponsor Bailey Payne and Michelle Smith for the High School Scholars Bowl sponsor. So I recommend that you approve those two.
I'm very happy to see we have a Scholars Bowl team.
It's exciting.
I move to approve those recommendations for employment.
Motion by Jeff, second by Lou. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Any board re-education requests? Hearing none, declare the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.